In a quiet village, there lived an old wise man who was known for his understanding of life's deeper meanings. People from all walks of life came to seek his advice. One day, a young man, burdened with frustration, came to the wise man and said, "I feel like I'm stuck. Every day I waste time, and no matter how hard I try, I achieve nothing. It feels like life is slipping through my hands." The wise man listened carefully and asked, "Do you know the real difference between the rich and the poor?" The young man was puzzled. "I suppose it's money, isn't it?" The wise man shook his head and said, "No, it's time. Everyone, whether rich or poor, is given the same 24 hours each day. The real wealth is not in what we own, but how we spend our time." The young man still looked confused, so the wise man continued, "Let me tell you a story about a man who was very wealthy, but one thing always troubled him. He felt like his life was meaningless. Despite his riches, he couldn't escape the feeling that something was missing. One day, he went to a wise sage and asked, "How can I find meaning in my life when all I do is waste my time chasing more wealth?" The sage looked at him and said, "Imagine this. You have just been told that you have one day to live. How would you spend your last 24 hours? The man replied, "I would spend time with my loved ones, tell them how much they mean to me, reflect on my life, and perhaps try to leave something meaningful behind." The sage smiled and said, "Exactly. But here's the secret. You don't know when your last day will come. It could be tomorrow or years from now. The problem is, you live as if you have an endless supply of time." This story gripped the young man's attention, and the wise man continued, "Psychologically, we trick ourselves into thinking that time is infinite, that we always have tomorrow. We procrastinate, believing we'll get another chance. But here's a fact about the human brain. It underestimates how precious time is. Our mind convinces us to chase distractions because they offer immediate gratification. But in doing so, we ignore the true value of each moment." The young man began to realize the weight of the old man's words. The wise man continued, "We often spend our time on things that give us short bursts of happiness, scrolling through social media, binging TV shows, or worrying about things we cannot control. But the deep fulfillment you seek comes from spending time with intention. Think of time like an investment. Every hour you waste is a lost opportunity. But if you spend it wisely, learning, building relationships, helping others, you're growing richer in a way that money can't measure." The wise man paused and asked, "Do you know why people feel anxious when they think they're running out of time?" The young man shook his head. "It's because deep down they know they haven't used their time wisely. When people face their final moments, their biggest regret is not how much wealth they've accumulated, how they spent their time. They realize they traded away their most valuable resource, time, for things that didn't matter." The young man now understood. "So the key is to live each day as if it were my last?" The wise man nodded. "Exactly. Imagine waking up every morning and asking yourself, if today were my last day, how would I want to spend it? Suddenly your priorities shift. You stop wasting time on things that don't matter, and you start focusing on what does: your growth, your relationships, and your purpose." As the young man left, he carried a new awareness with him. He began to see each moment as an opportunity, not to be wasted, but to be cherished. Life, he realized, isn't about having endless time. It's about making the most of the time you have. And so, the young man lived with a new sense of purpose, knowing that the true wealth of life lies not in what you have, but in how you spend your time.